Fro here. Welcome to today's presentation. So in today's presentation, we are going to be talking about talent training path. So talent training path, and if we go through this training path, it can ultimately lead to certification if you are looking to getting certified within talent. So there might be some people that are just looking to get the training. This will go through the training path and options that are available. But if you're also looking to maybe take that to the next level and get certified, this presentation would also give you some links, resources, and options that are available within Talend to not only gain mastery, but to also be able to prove your mastery potentially with a certification. So we're going to be looking at this resource that's available on the community website. So a lot of the presentation will be focused on this resource. But before we dive into that, before we dive into looking at that link and the resource, which of course I'm going to leave in the description below as well, I wanted to share this little quote, which I just thought was very fascinating and somewhat relevant to the topic of certification. So this is coming from David Prairie. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And what he says is, when someone builds a bridge, he uses engineers, he or she, he uses engineers who have been certified as knowing what they are doing. Yet when someone builds you a software program, he has no similar certification, even though your safety might just be as dependent upon that software working as it is upon the bridge supporting your weight, right? So you can, of course, read this particular quote. I just thought it was a very relevant quote, right? I know there are people who believe in certifications, there are people who don't, but ultimately, my goal here is not to make this video about, oh, you gotta get certified. It's just to say there are resources that are available, there are paths that are available, and if you're really looking to gain mastery, these resources could be handy for you, regardless of what level of expertise you are, whether you're a beginner, mid-level, somewhat expert, or you're just really wanting to become an overall master of the Talend platform. So that said, let's dive into the link. This is the link we're going to be using. So this is the link available on the community website, and I'm going to leave this link below. And what is important is, as you can imagine, with software, things are always changing, things are always updating. And so it just makes sense that, whatever we're talking about today might not be true, 2 or 5 years down the line. And so it'll be important to always refer back to this link so that if this is updated, you can get the latest and the greatest information. And the community website here does provide a lot and lots of information to the most current and up-to-date information. So this is what I really want to pay attention to, right? So that said, there are many options that are available if you're looking for training or if you're looking to get certified, all right? And if you really want to work with somebody in Talend, you can of course contact. There's an email provided in there to work with somebody doing training. If you have your team, you wanted to do training, or if you wanted to do your training individually, there are options. There's also the option of going down the Talend Academy avenue, where there is you can see I have my Talend Academy. You can certainly go down the path of the Talend Academy to take advantage of some of this training once you've kind of understood what the training path makes sense to you, what training path makes sense to you. So there are several options that are available. Now, the main avenues that are available, the main focus areas that are available for the training, and let me zoom in here for a second, would be one, being a cloud developer, and I'm going to talk through this in more details, right? Being a cloud developer, being a Talend Cloud API developer, being a Talend Cloud administrator, all right? Then there is a big data integration. Then there is just a data integration developer with complex mapping. So if you're trying to do complex files like EDIs, HLS7s, and Kubo copybooks and all of that, right? If you work in those kind of scenarios, then this is what that DI. So DI stands for data integration developer, and then complex mapping on top of that, right? So that's one path. Then of course you have the application integration developer or administrator. So if you're doing more application integration, ESP types of work, then that would be the path for us. Then below that you have, well, not below, next you have data analysis developer, right? Data stewardship developer, and then you have your data catalog manager, right? So more from your governance kind of perspective and data catalog and all the metadata that goes with that, right? So at a very high level, these are the path, right? And we can click on the link and it will take us to that specific area. So if we want to start with developer, We can click on that link, and this shows us what that track would look like if you want to go out and get some mastery to become a Talent Cloud developer, right? So what does that look like? So this is a recommended training that is being mentioned. So in here, you really have your associate, and then you have the professional. So you can think about associate like with most things. It's just that entry level, that beginner to get the foot in the door and give you that the bare minimum knowledge that is needed to develop talent cloud jobs, All right. And so here we see the details of what it consists. So introduction to Studio. So Talent Studio, I've done a lot of work, made a lot of videos with Talent Studio. So to do that, you'll be getting some mastery around Talent Studio. So I've done some work on Talent Studio. Just check around for some videos. Some of the presentations have been around Talent Studio. So this is what that will be covering when we talk about Talent Studio. So this is the IDE for development. So introduction to Talent Studio, Talent Cloud Essential, Talent Cloud Data Preparation, and then Talent Cloud Data Stewardship. All right, so these are the core things that would be needed to get mastery as a Talent Cloud developer. All right, so this talks about introduction to to Talent Studio, and then the Cloud Essentials. Studio, you develop the pipelines, right? So these are your pipelines that can connect to different sources, do all your transformations, data quality, and then write the data to destinations. All right, and so that walks you through that. And then of course there is a Cloud Essential. How do we take the jobs that are built in Studio and then write those to and then deploy or manage them in Talent Cloud? So that's the associate. And then if you see now the professional here, it talks about the preparation. So preparation is really around kind of self-service, right? It's not necessarily your technical person building deep technical data integration jobs. These are more of the person who might understand working with data is not necessarily a developer or a workflow builder. They can use the data preparation, which is almost like Excel with more capabilities on top of it to clean up data and to massage that data. And then once they have it ready, they can give it back to the developers to include that in the DI. So that's what that data preparation will be. And then of course you have data stewardship. So the data steward is really somebody who owns the data. I think that's where the name comes from, data steward, right? You're the steward of the data. And if there are issues with it, the data steward can go in, can clean that data, can fix it up. That way, that clean data can come back into the data integration flow. So if you're looking to gain some training, get some mastery, and become a cloud developer, this is the path that is available. Now, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, this is a wiki page, which I'm sure will be updated and constantly changing. So if there are any questions, if you're looking to go down this path or maybe train yourself or train your team, I would come back and look at this page to get the latest and greatest information, and not just rely on this video because it might be dated depending on when you're watching the video. Now, the next piece of the training is the Talent Cloud API developers. So if we think about it, the Talent Cloud developer, just think about the person building flows to move data, integrate data, connect to all the sources, do all the transformations, and maybe load the data warehouse like Snowflake or BigQuery or Redshift and such. All right. Now, the Talent Cloud API, Application Programming Interface Developer, is really focused on not just building those workflows, but how can you take those workflows and potentially expose them as an API for other people to consume. There's a lot of companies that are really exposing APIs. Twitter was very, very famous for having the Twitter API where developers could use that API and they can build more applications on top of Twitter. I believe that's one of the reasons why Twitter really, blew up as such very early on when APIs wasn't a big deal. All right, so now many companies that are sitting on massive amounts of data are looking to expose that as APIs. All right, and so what this Talent Cloud API developer does is it gives you the necessary training to be able to, not just move data from A to B, but to potentially expose that data as APIs that somebody else can use and consume within your team or for external applications. All right, so the needed pieces of the puzzle here are, of course, Studio. You'll notice Studio is always it's a starting point for a lot of these capabilities. So introduction to Studio, Talent Cloud Essentials, all right, which I think we talked about a little bit earlier. And then now the new one here is the ESB Basic, right? So Enterprise Service Bus. So it shows how you can, take advantage of building ESB types of jobs, because an ESB job and a regular data integration job, there's a little bit of differences in the ESBs. Think about it as real time. You want your API to be always on, all right? Whereas with, say, data integration, it might just be a batch where, you run the batch, it moves the data, and then that's it. But ESB, you kind of want it to be always on, and how to design those endpoints and routes and things like that. So this ESB basics will cover that. And for Talend, is based on Crav, right? Behind the scenes, Apache Crav is an open source technology. So you get some understanding of all of that. And then, of course, there is a Cloud API Services. And this will cover that as well, right? So again, the training part here talks about associate and then the professional side of things. All right, associate just gives you that basic of data integration, all right, or studio, and then cloud essentials, and then the professional now for cloud API developer, which go through the ESB basics, and then there's of course the cloud API services. All right, so there's the cloud API services. Now, it's important to maybe dive into details to see what this is. So if you want to see what, say, the cloud API services is, I will click on that link. All right. Cloud API services does cover certain, and you can see what the full training here is, or what the concepts are. And you can use this to maybe learn on your own if you're looking to learn, right? There are people that might just need the structure so they can go out and learn on their own. You can certainly use it to learn on your own, or if you want to take the Talend training and then follow the resources that are available to take that training as well. So going back here, you have the concepts about using API Designer. So Talend does provide an API Designer, which is a graphical user interface for designing APIs. You're thinking about your API contract and being able to document that. All right, and then there's also the API Tester as part of that. So that really gives you some, training around being able to do that, and it creates the YAML file or the OS3 specification for APIs. All right, so this covers that, and then you can go down into talking about REST. So once you design your API using the designer, you can import that into Studio and then actually implement the APIs themselves within Studio. All right, and then also use the API Tester, which is it's a Chrome extension to test your APIs, right? If you're developing all these APIs and you want to test them, you can use this extension to test that. And so this walks through all of that. And then at the end, it shows you how to deploy those APIs and actually orchestrate them using the Talend Cloud with microservices and all of that. So this is really what that Cloud API Services is, all right? Now, for ESB Basics, you can also see the ESB Basics in here. It should be very similar to the API services. It's very similar to the API services, except it doesn't have the API tester, and it doesn't have like the API designers and all of that as part of it. But it does have more, right? It goes into talking about routes and creating routes, brokers, messaging brokers like ActiveMQ, GMS, and all of that. So this will cover all those topics that you need to be able to develop your ESB applications within Studio. All right, now the next path here from Cloud API Developer would be Cloud Administrator. All right, so let's just recap. Cloud Developer, think about data integration. Cloud API, think about taking it to the next level to build kind of real-time API REST kind of applications. And the Cloud Administrator is basically what it sounds, right? How can you administer your Talend Cloud environment? All right. As part of this, there's just the associate, which covers the data integration administrator, and then there is a cloud administrator. So let's look at the data integration administrator. All right. This one talks about TAC. So you'll see here TAC, which is the Talend Administrator Center, which is, think about the talent management and all of that on-prem. Is called it on-prem, meaning you host it on your own environment. It's called the Talend Administration Center, and it goes into how can you manage all of that, how can you create users and projects and run jobs and schedule jobs and configure your source control with SVN or Git, job servers, and all of that, even AMC, Activity Monitoring Console for login and all of that. So if you really looking at going more of the admin path and not necessarily a developer path, right? You're trying to administer an environment, then this talent data integration administration uh, tutorial or series will be what you want to take. All right. And so this is for on-prem, and then you have the equivalent for Talent Cloud. So if you're working on a Talent Cloud license or a Talent Cloud environment, then of course you wouldn't be doing the on-premise one. You would be doing, well, it's nice to know both, but your focus really would be on the cloud administration. So you can manage or administer the Talent Cloud infrastructure within your environment. So it talks about creating users, managing roles, right? Being able to run tasks, see all the errors and the messages that are coming from that, and be able to connect to remote projects. And even, at some point talking about CI/CD and all of that, you can potentially be exposed to all of this within the Talent Cloud administration. Now, next piece of that would be big data, right? Big data developer. So if you're looking, let me close everything here to the right. So if you're looking now to not just do data integration or to do APIs, right, or to do administration, maybe your role is more focused on the big data side, which is a very big deal these days, no pun intended. But if you're more focused on the big data side of things, then the big data developer track might be the track to consider. As is the case with the other tracks, there is the associate, professional, and then advanced, right? So associate here talks about studio. So studio is the bare minimum. That's just the bottom line here, all right? Because you really just have to have an understanding of what studio is. And then of course there is the big data basics that works through big data basics. And then there's a data quality essentials. So this is data quality, because with Talend, data quality is embedded into what the product does. And so especially when you're talking about big data, there's this idea of the data swamp, right? Because companies realized that they were building data lakes and they were just dumping data and hoping that, at some point they will make sense of all of this. But what happens was a lot of the big data projects were failing because of quality issues. The data was bad. You cannot make any decision with the data coming from the data lake because of a lot of data quality issues. And so this data quality essentials really ensures that you're not just building big data basics, but you're actually, having data quality as part of it to have a trusted data lake, right? So that's for the professional side. And then if you really want to take it to more advanced and do more like Spark kind of processing, streaming use cases with like Kafka, Kinesis, and all of that, this advanced module would be able to cover that. And then as well as machine learning, right? Machine learning, data scientists, and all of that. You can really take this particular module and be able to gain mastery around that. So if your organization or if you as an individual just cares about big data, then the big data track is what you might really want to look at. All right, let me open them up here for a second. I don't think I'll go through every single one of this. I'll really advise, if you're watching this video, just click on the link in the description below, and then you can see all of this right at your fingertips. So you can see the data quality example in here. Talks about how to do data quality analysis, right? Advanced matching, data cleansing, privacy, which is a very big deal now, all right? Especially if you're building a data lake, you can take advantage of all of these concepts to really build a very robust and trusted data lake. It's important, right? Not just a data lake, but a data lake that people can actually trust. Many organizations don't trust their data lake, all right? And then of course you have the big data advanced in here with machine learning and all of that. You can, if that's your path, right, kind of like a data scientist, then this is really what you want to consider. Running on Spark, running with Databricks, Cloudera, MapArrow, and Hadoop, and all of that. Those will be covered in these modules. Now, going back, big data developer is one. Then you have the data integration developer. All right. If I was putting this in order, of course, you want to get some mastery of data integration before we even start talking about big data. But I don't think this is in any sorted order. So data integration, if your job, your responsibility, or your interest is just to do data integration, and all right, give me the source of data, tell me what my transformations and my validations are, and then load it into my data warehouse or load it into this database or something like that, then data integration is really what you want to get some mastery around. And this is what this particular module would be. All right. So again, there is the associate, professional, and advanced. Right. So of course, you always want to start from the associate, which is the DI basic, data integration basics, and then you can go to the data integration advanced, and then of course there is even more advanced than that, which would be continuous integration with Talend. So think about your CI, CD, CT, continuous integration, continuous deployment, continuous testing, continuous delivery, and all the continuous things, all right, that needs to be done. So this would be what that path will look like. So let's take a look. Let me close them all first. Close tabs to the right. Let's just, I don't want to do that. I want to open up this as such. All right, so data integration basics, you can see what the curriculum here or the course agenda does look like. How do you connect to databases? How do you work with files? How do you process data? How do you control execution? And all the details of being able to be a full-fledged data integration developer gets covered within this particular course, right? Within this particular course, and those are the objectives. And then if you're looking more about advanced data integration, of course, it's like taking your basic data integration to the next level. How do you start going into best practices, performance tuning, collaboration, doing things like change data capture, CDC, unit testing, joblets, parallel execution. There's just a lot more that you can go in here to really elevate from just a basic data integration developer to maybe the more advanced person, right? So if you're kind of the lead of your team or a more senior developer, these are the concepts that you definitely want to have under your belt. And then, of course, there is a continuous integration with Talend. So now we're seeing a lot of continuous integration. Now, companies want speed. They don't just want to do data integration. They want to do it with speed, right? Speed now is a competitive advantage, and that's why continuous integration is becoming especially important. So in this case, if you want to be able to take those flows or those jobs that you've built, whether it's data integration or data integration advanced or even big data, and run them through your continuous integration pipeline using Jenkins and Maven and all of that, all right, this would take you through all of that. So very powerful. And I think that's really where the industry seems to be going quite a bit, and it fits very naturally into Talend. All right, so that's it for data integration developer. Next one is data integration complex data mapping, right? So this is not just for moving data. This is really scenarios where you might be working with complex files. This is not true for every industry, but say you're working with XML, JSON, all right? Those are very simple files, but then take something like healthcare, where you have the HLA7, or scenarios where you have EDI, or scenarios where you have like COBOL copybooks and all of that, which you need to pass, right? They have very complex hierarchies and such. So Talend does have a capability which is called the Talend Data Mapper. So this is what you would be getting exposed to be able to do all the complex mapping. So here, there is the associate and the professional. Associate is introduction to Talend Studio. That's basic, right? A lot of the other ones I've talked about introduction to Talend Studio. And then there is a, let me close everything to the right. This next one is the Talend Data Mapper Essentials. All right, so this is really where you dive into those complex files. There is an entire interface within Talend itself that shows how to, create those structures and create the maps and be able to untangle the very complex files that you might be working with. So this is what that module would be. EDI, COBOL, Swift, all of those are available in here. And it also shows how to take it and not just run it as a data integration, but to run it potentially as big data as well, or to run those mappings within routes as well. So very powerful. It's a little bit specialized, but powerful nonetheless if this scenario fits your need. Next one from the complex mapping that we have is the application integration developer. All right, and this goes again into the ESB types of scenarios. So the two main paths here are associate and the professional, right? So once you've gone through the associate part, which is basically having some training around Talend Studio, and then some training around the data integration administration, then the next one is the ESB, right? ESB basic and the ESB admin, so enterprise service bus, right? We kind of talked about this on the APIs, but the ESB shows us how to build routes and SOAP and REST. SOAP is kind of an old technology now, but REST is really the big deal here, talking about Java Bean and all of that. So if you're really into ESB and route building, right? This is definitely the track to go on for real-time kind of scenarios and messages. Now, the next one that is on that list is the ASB administrator. So it's one thing to build those routes, but if you really want to take advantage of being the admin for all of that, how do you deploy the route to the environments and be able to manage them and service locators and service monitoring and event logging and all of that? Then this advanced module or this advanced piece of it would cover all of that for you. All right. And then if you go down, there is a data analysis developer as well. Again, the basics for this is maybe you're not looking to just do full data integration, right? Or maybe you actually are doing data integration, but you really want to elevate and be able to not just move data, but to be able to analyze that data. So this covers that, data analysis developer. The requirements here, or the main areas here, associate professional, not so much for advanced. If you see requirements here, Talent Studio, DQ Essentials, data preparation, which I talked a little bit earlier, and then big data basic. And so this can give you that full robust skill to be, data analysis, to do data analysis for companies. And then we have data stewardship, or just a data steward. Typically, the data steward will use the Talend data stewardship tool to be able to perform their role of a data steward. So requirements here are introduction to Studio, which is what we see here. And then there is a data stewardship for data stewards. And then, of course, there is a data preparation. All right. It's always a data steward can get away with not having exposure to data preparation, but I think it gives you even more power and leverage if you have some exposure to data preparation to really be a true data steward. So you can see the requirements in here for what the Talend data steward or the stewardship portal is doing. Here you can create campaigns, you can create semantic types, you can resolve issues within campaigns, you can assign those tasks to other stewards, you can do some arbitration, you can do merging, grouping, and resolution and all of that. So very, very powerful for stewards who want to take ownership of the data and be able to really cleanse the data as part of the data integration process. And then, of course, there is the data preparation, which I mentioned a little bit earlier. This is really more of people who want to interact, massage that data, do some sampling, create some recipes or preparation. That's another term for it. Create semantic types using the dictionary service, and then be able to implement live data sets. So very, very powerful if you're really looking to be a steward. The Talend data preparation for developers is a track to take. Now, data stewardship developer, I think we kind of talked about this. It's almost repetitive with the data steward, all right? But this one is some background with data with Studio, and then of course there's a data stewardship for developers. The data stewardship for developers. So there's one for just stewards themselves, and then this is the one for actual developers. How do you take those campaigns and inject them back into your flows as such? So powerful. All right, and then last but not least is the data catalog manager. All right, this is kind of like a whole bucket in its own, because there are really two things. One, which is the data catalog basics, and another one which is the data catalog advanced. All right, and so if you are looking to be if you are kind of like the governance person within your organization, and you're responsible for answering questions like, oh, where is my data, or where is this data coming from, and what transformation happened to this data, right, and be able to answer all those questions, that really goes into a data catalog. All right, and so in Talend data catalog, for that training, there is the basics, and then there is the advanced. So for the basics, you're looking at how to harvest data from the different data sources, whether you're looking at flat files, databases, Tableau reports, data integration jobs, and all of that. You can go through, you gain some mastery around that. How do you do stitching of that metadata? So you can harvest from all the sources. We still need to do the stitching to kind of tell what the story right? What happened to this data from when we took it from the source to all the transformations to when it makes it to the report or to that destination. All right, so this covers all of that for us. And then talking about the glossary and semantic type, Glossary is your, think about it as the terms within your organization and what they all mean. What is an account? What is a sale? What is a user? And things like that, right? Each organization has their own business glossary of terms. And then we can map those terms to semantic types that actually define what a data type is. All right, so very powerful. It's a little bit of an advanced concept and a little bit specialized, right? Because not everyone is, on the governance team or the governance council. But if that's you, then this is definitely the course to take. And then the advanced one takes it even to the next level, as you can imagine, right? How do you not just harvest, but you can do automatic harvesting, automate the harvesting, use versioning, audit, and all of that are things that are concepts that are covered within this particular module. All right. So that's it. That's it. I think hopefully this helps. Just to recap, if you go back to the top here, right, you have, if I was to summarize this and put this into 3 buckets, right, you really have your self-service bucket, which is just people that are not technical, but they want to work with data. All right, that self-service bucket will be looking at stewards, stewardship developers, data analysis, and such. All right, and then you have your developer bucket. These are people that are doing data integration developers. All right, and that will be your cloud developer, big data developer, maybe API developers, and such. All right, even your complex mapping. And then at the last bucket, you have kind of like your governance kind of bucket. All right, and within that governance kind of bucket, you're looking more at your data catalog. You're looking more at being your data catalog, maybe some data steward, but really, 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 it's at the data catalog level for your governance kind of situations, thinking about GDPR or CCPA, and all the regulations that are coming. If your responsibility is to handle all of that, then getting some enablement around this is really what is needed. All right, guys, I hope this was helpful. I hope this was helpful. Like I mentioned, the link to this will be in the description. So if you're considering or getting some training or just trying to improve your competency to elevate your team, to empower your team, then I would consider looking at this training and understanding what the best fit for you is. And you can go about doing it on your own as an individual, or you might want to reach out to some of the resources that are available in here to talk about it and get help on how to proceed with that. So through here, thanks for watching, thanks for joining into this presentation. Like I said, the link will be in the description, and I'll see you in our next video.